Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe in the studios of our flagship stations, 89.3 Lakes FM and Civic Center TV on Comcast, Channel 15 and AT&T Channel 99. Where you can also find us in the Birmingham-Bloomfield area on Birmingham Area Municipal Access and on City Cable 15 of Southfield. Join us live on Channel 10 in Waterford every day on the Media Network of Waterford and live to tape in Orion Township and Lake Orion, also on Channel 10 on Orion Neighborhood Television, or as the kids call it, ONTV. You can also find us on the radio in the Birmingham, Bloomfield, and Troy areas on the Biff Radio Network, 88.1 WBFH, the Biff, a service of the Bloomfield Hills School District. Find us on our Facebook pages online at Civic Center TV 15 and at Lakes FM, on our website, civiccentertv.com, and beginning at 11 o'clock for the Michigan Megacast on My Michigan TV or MyMy at mymytv.com, mymytv.com, where you can also learn more about where you can download, how you can download their free MyMyTV apps for your smartphone and your smart TVs. Keep and take us with you back home and on the road with you on MyTV. All that information is on our website, civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you can also find all of our programs on demand, as well as each individual interview as well. Then let's head over to our coronavirus page, civiccentertv.com/coronavirus, where we have links to the most up-to-date information on COVID-19 from reliable expert resources at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, and the Oakland County Health Division, so that you can stay up to date on everything that you need to know about the spread of COVID-19 precautionary tactics such as masking and physical distancing, as well as vaccinations and booster shots. Also on our coronavirus page at civiccentertv.com/coronavirus, we feature articles from many journalistic outlets throughout the Great Lakes state in order to keep you updated on COVID-19 and other stories making headlines across Michigan. Our top story today from Bridge, Michigan is their coronavirus tracker, which states that new cases remain steady, but the positive test rate has begun to rise. Michigan's public health officials reported 1,550 new COVID infections on Wednesday of this week, or a daily average of 775 for Tuesday and Wednesday's recorded metrics. That put the 7-day rate at 626 daily cases, unchanged from Monday's daily average. However, the percent of recorded coronavirus tests coming back positive inched up on Wednesday to 4.6% over the most recent 2-day period. That is an increase of about 0.9% from 3.7%, which was up from 3.4% on Monday previously before that. The low percentage indicates less community transmission of the disease, however. The state also reported 72 additional COVID-19 related deaths. The increase in the percent of positive tests comes as the state has discovered more cases linked to the Omicron BA.2 subvariant, considered more transmissible than the initial variant of Omicron that hit the state beginning in December as well as in January and in February. As of Monday, 217 cases of the BA.2 subvariant have been confirmed in Michigan, according to state data provided to Bridge, Michigan. About 63% of those cases, 137 in total, were confirmed in Metro Detroit's Wayne, Oakland, Macomb, and Washtenaw counties. Health experts are unsure whether BA.2 could spark another surge where it's more prevalent in New York and in New England. Case counts have started to rise, but remain relatively low. It has been blamed for sharper increases in several European and Asian countries, however. Hospital admissions, now considered a more important barometer of whether restrictions should be adopted, continue to fall in the state of Michigan. Michigan reported 478 patients statewide with confirmed or suspected COVID-19, the first time below 500 of those since July 30th, when there were 407 COVID-19 patients in hospitals. On January 10th, there were 5,009 statewide. That was the most ever throughout the course of the pandemic. Michigan officials also announced on Wednesday that anyone, including those returning from a spring break vacation, can find free at-home COVID-19 tests at 70 Michigan libraries. The Michigan Department of Health and Human Services has shipped 24,000 tests to these libraries to be offered on a first-come, first-served basis under the expanded program. You can find library locations in a link in this article that's both on our website. This part of the article is both on our website and on Bridge, Michigan's website. If you click through to the link and go to their website and read the full article. Michiganders are also asked to limit them to 5 per household. Testing remains free at sites throughout the state as well. Read that full article as well as those supporting materials from Bridge, Michigan on our website, civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. Additionally, making headlines from the Detroit News today, Macomb County joins the Glioblastoma mutiny over a disputed Highland Park debt. Several communities in 2 of Michigan's largest counties have pledged to withhold a portion of their water bills to the Regional Water Authority, the Great Lakes Water Authority, as they protest their subsidies of a disputed Highland Park water-related debt. Four Macomb County communities, Sterling Heights, St. Clair Shores, Shelby Township, and Macomb Township on Wednesday joined a growing chorus of cities in western Wayne County voicing opposition to paying off $54 million in Highland Park arrearage to the Great Lakes Water Authority. Macomb County leaders encouraged their counterparts in other communities to do the same. To date, Macomb County communities have paid $13.5 million connected to the Highland Park debt. Quote, "Enough is enough," said Macomb County Executive Mark Hackle at a 45-minute press conference on Wednesday of this week. The alleged debt in question stretches all the way back to 2012, when Highland Park was forced to join the Detroit water system after years of environmental violations at its water plant. The Great Lakes Water Authority says Highland Park has paid only 1% of its water bill and 50% of its sewer bill over that time period. Highland Park, meanwhile, says it was overcharged for years and cites a 2021 Wayne County Circuit Court ruling that says it does not owe money, but is owed actually $1 million from the Detroit Public Works Commissioner, Candace Miller. From the Detroit Public Works Commissioner. Candace Miller viewed that case differently, saying, quote, "Highland Park, you are taking advantage of your neighbors enabled by the courts," in a statement on Wednesday. The Great Lakes Water Authority, which did not respond for comment Wednesday to the Detroit News, has said it needs the funds to operate and that bad debt has to be spread among its remaining customers. Frustrations are growing, however, in Metro Detroit surrounding this case. Communities in Oakland County have also voiced frustration with the Highland Park debt, but have not yet decided to withhold funds. Quote, "We really need the state to step in," said Oakland County Water Resources Commissioner Jim Nash this week. Continuing on, Nash said, quote, "It's something that we just need to take care of, and they, Highland Park, are not in any more of a position to do that than we are. The state ordered it. We need to have the state respond to this, in my mind," and closed quote. Karen Mondora, Director of Public Services for Farmington Hills, said the city is on the hook for $31,000 of disputed debt in fiscal year 2023, which begins on July 1st of this year. It has paid nearly $285,000 of that debt to date. Brian Baker represents Macomb County on the Great Lakes Water Authority Board. It was his idea to send the letters from Glioblastoma to the member communities, announcing how much each had paid toward retiring the alleged Highland Park debt and asking for the state's help resolving the issue. Baker estimated the Highland Park arrearage costs Macomb County homeowners $75 to $100 per year. Highland Park has argued that water independence is its path forward. Between the cost of replacing old lead water lines and refurbishing its old plant, it would cost anywhere from $90 million to $100 million, according to Highland Park Water Director Damon Garrett. Miller, the Public Works Commissioner, questioned that plan, saying, quote, "That building needs to be bulldozed. It cannot be fixed." Of the Highland Park water plant, which was decommissioned in 2012 due to cloudy water. Miller continued on saying, quote, "It doesn't make sense," and closed quote. Highland Park City Administrator Kathy Square has argued that what doesn't make sense is remaining a Glioblastoma customer. Not only did Highland Park have water independence for decades prior to the 2012 shutdown of that water plant, it had water rights to Lake St. Clair, Square also noted, saying, quote, "It is not cost effective to stay on Glioblastoma water," Square said. Highland Park's defense, the committee also heard Highland Park's side from the city's water director, Damon Garrett. Highland Park was overcharged for years, Garrett said, to the tune of roughly $13 million. He cited a 2021 Wayne County Circuit Court ruling in favor of the city. Glioblastoma maintains that Highland Park stopped making payments in April of 2021. Garrett portrayed the non-payment differently as a reaction to past overpayment. A Glioblastoma representative was not present at Tuesday's committee meeting. Quote, "We are escrowing that because we believed that we were overcharged," Garrett said, continuing on saying, "So we are invoicing them monthly that the payments should go against what we've overpaid, the $13 million. That full article, it's even more extensive on the Detroit News' website. Highly encourage you to go to their website at DetroitNews.com or more easily, go to CivicCenterTV.com/coronavirus, click on the link to this article or click on the thumbnail, which is the Glioblastoma logo, and it will take you directly to the Detroit News' page for this very article so that you can stay up to date on everything that you need to know about this situation over there in Highland Park. Lastly, making headlines at CivicCenterTV.com/coronavirus from the Detroit Free Press. High winds across Michigan have already knocked out power to almost 80,000 homes up to this point. The number of homes without power throughout the state of Michigan grew steadily on Thursday morning, with high winds gusting up to 50 miles per hour and a wind advisory in effect until 2 p.m. By 9 a.m., two of the state's largest utilities reported about 78,000 customers had lost electricity, with a potential for many more outages before the high winds were expected to die down. The rapidly escalating number of outages raises fears of a repeat from last summer, when utilities were criticized for their response to power outages that left hundreds of thousands in the dark for days. In those outages, Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel urged DTE and Consumers Energy to credit customers with lost power. And in addition to the high winds, the National Weather Service in White Lake Township said Thursday to expect a wide temperature swing from the mid-60s and rain in Detroit down freezing and snow, especially close to the Ohio border. By about 7 a.m. on Thursday, DTE was reporting more than 17,000 customers throughout southeast Michigan without power, less than 1% of its total customers, with more than 50 crews in the field working on repairs. Within less than an hour, that number jumped to nearly 20,000 customers, and then by 9 a.m., more than doubled to about 54,000 customers. Consumers Energy said it had more than 14,000 customers without power, which became 24,000 shortly after. Both utilities urged customers to report power outages so that crews can be dispatched to repair damage and to stay clear of those power lines if you see them down on the ground. Do not approach a downed power line. Call your energy provider or call 911. In addition, half-full freezers usually can hold food safely for up to 24 hours. Is another suggestion from these utilities. Saturday and Sunday temperatures are expected to reach the 50s. All of those articles on our website, civiccentertv.com/coronavirus, as well as those ever helpful links to accurate information on COVID-19 from the CDC, the MDHHS, and the Oakland County Health Division. We have a great program ahead on this Thursday edition of the Oakland County Megacast. Coming up next, we'll speak to a playwright named Eric Goldstein, who we've spoken to multiple times before. He's also the city attorney for the city of Livonia. That's coming up next. Then at 10:40, Oakland County Executive David Coulter will join us on the program. That's all up next. This is the Oakland County Megacast.
It's the Great Lakes water. And so what people do ends up in our waterways.
Flushable wipes are just evil. They should be thrown away. They're impossible to destroy, and they can cause significant problems.
One of the main things when you're cooking is to not dump fats, oils, and greases down your drains.
They stick to the sides of pipes. They stick to everything they come in contact with. Don't put it down the sink.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
When times get dark, we can't see the help that's all around us. When you don't know where to turn, let 211 be your guiding light.
How can I help you?
Our guides are ready to connect you with the help you need. For help with food, healthcare, mental health, and other resources. Call 211 or visit 211.org. 211. Get connected, get help.
We may come from different organizations.
But we work together to protect the Huron River for everyone.
Neighborhood storm drains carry water directly to local creeks and streams. No filters, no treatment.
Storm drains also help reduce street flooding when it rains.
So clearing storm drains and the areas nearby of trash and leaves helps keep them for rain only.
It is easy to do your part by adopting a storm drain.
Find a storm drain, check it, and clear it every month.
So keep storm drains for rain only.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
If you are struggling to afford your internet bills during the pandemic, there's a temporary government program that may be able to help. It's called the Emergency Broadband Benefit, and it provides up to a $50 monthly discount on your broadband bill to qualifying households. Find more information about the program, including if you qualify and how to enroll, at fcc.gov/broadbandbenefit, or call toll-free at 833-511-0311.
A public service announcement from 89.3 Lakes FM.
we as Michiganders feel connected to this resource in a way that I think is really powerful.
Conservation starts with a caring, committed community.
For me, it's peaceful to have a relationship with the river.
Every single one of us has a role to make sure that those waterways stay safe and healthy, being careful about what goes down the storm drain.
Just even eliminating some of your single-use plastic makes a difference.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
Welcome back to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe. Learn more about the program at civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you'll also find information on all of our partnering television and radio stations all throughout the Oakland County area, so you can keep up to date beyond the Megacast on other things making headlines and other important events all throughout Oakland County. civiccentertv.com/megacast. We've spoken to him multiple times before, and in April, it'll be the 2-year anniversary of his diagnosis with glioblastoma. We've previously talked to him about some of his playwriting, which he's written stage plays about his experience with his diagnosis and some of the lessons he's learned throughout his battle with glioblastoma. Joining us once again on the Oakland County Megacast is Eric Goldstein. Eric, thank you for being with us once again.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you with us. It's been months since we've last had you in touch. How have you been holding up? How are you doing at this time?
I'm having a good day and I'm having a good month, so I'll take it.
All right, and so for those that may not have seen your earlier appearances, can you tell our audience just what glioblastoma is?
Glioblastoma is a type of brain cancer. It's one of the most aggressive types of brain cancer there is. If you're old enough to remember the Looney Tunes cartoons, it is the Tasmanian devil of brain tumors, if you will. We manage it very, very delicately and thoroughly. And quite frankly, my being here today is an evidence of beating the odds. Life expectancy is very short for this type of cancer.
Can you talk about the various survival rates for those with glioblastoma and how that changes as each year passes?
Right. There's these global statistical studies about overall survivability, and I don't have them memorized, but the basic idea is just about half of the people who are diagnosed with this die within a year, and about 70 to 80% die within 2 years. Once you get to the 3-year mark, the proportion of that original group that lives through a given year starts to increase as compared to those who die. So I'm looking forward to getting to that 3-year mark. That's my optimism and that's my hope. And that's when the odds start to maybe become less severe. But at the end of 5 years, generally speaking, about 5 to 6% of those who got it are still alive.
We're joined by Eric Goldstein, who is a playwright, also an attorney with the city of Livonia, and we've had him on previously talking about his battle with glioblastoma, which he's written plays about his journey and about how it's changed his perspective on living, even with a disease that for many has been deadly. One of the more important parts of your treatment has been Optune. Can you tell us about that particular treatment and what that has done for you?
I'd be happy to. The Optune device, I'm not actually wearing it at the moment. We have to give my skin a break every few days to let it recover. You can see some red marks on my head. It is affixed to my head with these giant Band-Aid-like things, and it projects an electric signal, an oscillating electric signal into the brain. It's called a tumor treatment field. And what that does is if it captures a tumor cell within the field, it'll prevent the tumor cell from dividing so that one cell doesn't become two. And that's basically how the tumors grow. If we're really lucky, it might even kill the cell that's trying to divide. So this is a non-invasive treatment. It does not involve taking chemo medication. You don't have the side effects of chemo. It's not radiation. All it is an electric field and you just have to wear it all the time, except for giving your skin a break, which we're doing right now. Just bad timing for you not to be able to see it, but good timing for my skin to recover.
Yes, good timing for your skin, definitely, and it's doing great work when it is on your head. Is this something that's relatively common in the treatment of glioblastoma, or is the use of this Optune device something relatively new or experimental?
It's not experimental. It was approved for this specific treatment by the FDA, I believe 8 or 9 years ago. It's expanding its use. They're expanding its use into other forms of cancer as the science evolves and demonstrates that it's possible. I'm not a full expert on it, but I understand they're looking into mesothelioma, a type of lung cancer that involves asbestos exposure. I believe they're using it with uterine cancer, but I don't know if those are at the stages of being FDA approved or if it's still experimental. With the glioblastoma brain cancer, it has been shown to make a statistical improvement. You get a bump in your overall survivability. It almost doubles your chances of making it 5 years.
And so how long have you been using the Optune device?
We started using it in July of 2020.
Okay, so shortly after you were diagnosed.
Right. You know, we discovered there was a tumor in April. We rushed to surgery, overcoming COVID obstacles, which was very challenging, and got the surgery, and they pulled the tumor out. They did a pathology and discovered it was a glioblastoma tumor. They set me up for radiation and chemotherapy. And then when I had sufficiently recovered from that initial course, we started the Optune. And that was by July.
Just how common, to your knowledge and from your discussion with doctors, if this has come up, how common of a treatment is Optune? Because you started on it a couple of years ago. I'm not sure when it was introduced after approval from the FDA for treatment of glioblastoma, but if it was only just a few years ago, it would still be a relatively new treatment. How common is this in treating glioblastoma?
I expect it is increasingly common and routine for glioblastoma patients for whom it makes sense. There are like large metropolitan centers where there's big hospital systems with specialized cancer treatment programs. They're going to be strong advocates for using Optune. If you're living out in the country or in less developed metropolitan areas where the hospital is more equipped to dealing with non-oncology issues, non-cancer issues, there's going to be less familiarity with Optune. And even if the hospital system just has a general oncologist, not one specializing in brain cancer, it may not be on their radar. And if it is, they might even be skeptical of it.
We're joined by Eric Goldstein. He is an attorney with the city of Livonia, also a playwright. We've talked to him previously about a web production he did of one of his plays, Here We Go, in September of 2021. So when we talked to you then, you were in the middle of the production of that play. It was being done virtually because at the time we were still dealing with COVID-19 cases. For those that were not tuned in that day or have not heard of Here We Go, can you give them a little bit of an overview of that production, of that story, and what your inspiration was behind producing that?
Here We Go was prompted by a desire to tell the story of having a regular life, being struck by cancer, this lightning strike, and then finding a way forward and making the observation that I'm not different from other people. I just have a heads up that I'm going to be dying sooner than later, and how that affects me. You might think it's a morbid, sad story, but it's really not. It's a story about universals, about the meaning of life and what makes a life like a joyous thing. I put us in the context of history, you know, and our ancestors and our kids to come after us. And And I also have in it a very uplifting ending. What I'd like to say more about is the feedback I've gotten from people who've watched Here We Go. It's on YouTube for free. Glioblastoma patients from around the world have contacted me and told me how grateful they were to see me wearing the Optune device, and that they felt less isolated. And it gave them the vocabulary to talk about things they needed to talk about but didn't know how to. But more importantly, for me, people without glioblastoma, people just having struggles in their lives, found this to be an inspirational story. It gave them hope. It gave them strength to persevere and overcome their challenges. And that was very fulfilling and satisfying for me to know that just telling my story was helpful to other people.
We're joined by Eric Goldstein on the Oakland County Megacast, playwright who wrote Here We Go, and that began to be shown in September of 2021. We've talked to him previously. We're catching up with him now. Lately, you've been spending these days with others who have been diagnosed with glioblastoma and helping them along their journey. Where did that start, and what sort of new inspiration have you taken from your experience consulting with them on their journey and tailoring in your experience over these past 2 years battling glioblastoma?
Well, I've found a number of there. This is COVID, so it's not like there's a club or you can go to a support group that's tailored to glioblastoma. But online, I have found a listserv. I have found a number of closed Facebook groups. Closed by meaning you have to apply or be invited in because you qualify. There's glioblastoma Facebook groups. There's the Optune users Facebook group. There's a caregivers Facebook group I just learned about the other day. I have been an active participant in a number of these groups as we try to all help each other. It's not like I'm a savior or anything. We are all just peers dealing with similar things and trying to help each other and problem solve and troubleshoot. Have I answered your question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. We're joined by Eric Goldstein. He is a playwright, also a city attorney with the city of Livonia, joining us on the Oakland County Megacast. So at this time, Here We Go has been showing for about 6 months since its premiere on YouTube. And any other works that you're doing in theater at this time, or any other writing that of projects that you're working on that we should be on the lookout for?
Well, we are. I finished directing a play, and it ran just a few months ago with the Rosedale Community Players. We had started it before COVID and before the cancer, and then as the situation lightened up, I think it was last September or so that we retook the rehearsal stage and we performed it. That was a lot of fun through the Rosedale Community Players in Southfield, Michigan. I'm on the outlook for interesting and good projects. I've got a few things in the works, but nothing that I'd like to tell you to be on the lookout for. It's, I think, too soon for that.
For you, has having the opportunity to be back out there and potentially go back to in-person theater or more regular interaction with the theater as you were able to do pre-pandemic and of course pre-diagnosis, how does that help you in your personal recovery journey, going back and having that opportunity potentially to do something that you've enjoyed for a long time, that you also tailored into your initial recovery from glioblastoma?
Well, one of the problems a lot of glioblastoma patients, particularly those who wear the Optune device, which is a very conspicuous thing.
Sure.
It brands you as being other, on appearance. Many of us don't want to be others. We don't want to be the stranger or the weirdo. We are still who we are. We're just dealing with a particular form of cancer, but we're still the same people we were beforehand. And what getting out and living my life as best as I can pushes back against that feeling of being other. But at the same time, if I can just segue to the other side of that coin, it can be often very discouraging, recognizing that you're suffering from a life-shortening condition for which there's no cure. I mean, that's why I go in to get an MRI every 60 days. I mean, as great as Optune is, it's not perfect. And so we want to catch the signs of tumor growth as quickly as we can. And it makes no sense to go get an MRI every day. So somebody smart figured out 60 days is the right ratio on some cost-benefit analysis. We do that because we want to catch the tumor if it starts to grow again. And the specter of living like that, like, if you're old enough, you remember Tarzan, who would swing from vine to vine to vine. We're swinging from MRI to MRI to MRI. And it took me months to get past the idea that, yeah, I can think beyond 60 days. For a while, I didn't think beyond 60 days, but now I do, with hope and optimism and Optune. Yay, Optune. But during it's very, some people would say, well, and live your life to the fullest, live every day to get the most out of it. And, I disagree. That would be very exhausting, very exhausting. I would rather have a normal life than a life filled with sprinting adventures every day. So how do you find a path or a metric that tells you what's a good day in this? And I would say, with glioblastoma, and I'd say it would be the same kind of metrics to define what would be a good day regularly. And that's a personal choice. But for me, I've kind of narrowed it down to three things. If at the end of the day, I can say yes to just one of these three questions, then it's a good day. And I think anyone can use these three questions. It doesn't have to be a cancer patient. Have I been useful? Have I been creative? Have I learned something? If you can say yes to just one of those things, then you had a good day. And if you have good day after good day after good day, that's what you can call a meaningful life.
Eric, thank you so much for joining us.
Glad to be here.
Appreciate your time. Thank you very much. We've been joined by Eric Goldstein, a playwright and also an attorney with the city of Livonia, who has been living for the past 2 years since his diagnosis with glioblastoma, continues to advocate in the glioblastoma community and help us here keep informed on this form of a brain tumor. We're going to take a break here on the Oakland County Megacast. On the other side, we will be joined by Oakland County Executive Dave Coulter, who will talk about upcoming programs that the county is working on, as well as his recent State of the County address. That's coming up next. You're watching the Oakland County Megacast.
Did you know that nearly 3.31 million Americans don't get their annual checkup? Going to the doctor regularly is extremely important and is a crucial factor in maintaining good health. Make sure you are visiting your local doctor often and telling them about any health concerns you have. For more information, contact your local healthcare provider. This message is brought to you by WBHS Digital Media Arts Program and 89.3 Lakes FM.
People are getting out to walk and bike in higher numbers. More vulnerable road users and higher speed traffic can be a dangerous combination. Crash severity has increased, so if you're driving, be sure to slow down and look for people. There's no need to speed. If you're biking, ride with traffic. If you're walking, avoid stepping into the road if possible. If you have to walk in the street, walk facing traffic. Learn more at walkbikedrivesafe.org.
When times get dark, we can't see the help that's all around us. When you don't know where to turn, let 211 be your guiding light.
How can I help you?
Our guides are ready to connect you with the help you need. For help with food, healthcare, mental health, and other resources. Call 211 or visit 211.org. 211. Get connected, get help.
Joining us now is Oakland County Executive David Coulter, who recently made his State of the County address. Executive, thank you for being with us this morning.
Tyler, always great to be with you. Thanks.
Appreciate having you on. So can you touch on some of the highlights of the topics that you emphasized last night at the State of the County address? It was the night before the date that we are recording this, and that this is live on the Oakland County Megacast. And obviously, it's been another complicated year here in Oakland County. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of different factors to consider. What are some of the highlights that you went over last night at your State of the County address?
Yeah, thanks. What I really tried to do is lay out sort of a 5-year roadmap for the future. What does Oakland County really need to make sure that it's paying attention to, leaning into, investing in over the next 5 years to make sure that we remain a competitive and great place to live? And so, some of those buckets include a strong economy, right? We know that Oakland County is a good place economically. You can get a good job here. But are we doing enough for our small businesses? So I touched on that. Safe and healthy communities. That's safe and healthy people, I should say. And we know how important that is. Our health, but also our communities being safe places. And we talked about that. And then finally, I kind of have this last bucket that I would just say, letting people live their best lives. The kinds of things like parks and trails and workforce development that really help make this an exceptional county to be. So I laid out this 5-year plan, and just as importantly, I want to say this. I want to hold us accountable. We have goals and we have measures, and we're going to have data around these plans. And now, as of now, you can go to our website at oakgov.com, and all of these goals will be there, and the measures will be there. So you can hold us accountable to achieving the things that I talked about last night.
We're joined by Oakland County Executive David Coulter on the Megacast. More information on their website, oakgov.com. And so a big factor in all of this over the last couple of years has been COVID-19. And it looks like we're in a much more relaxed place now, and things are looking up for the first time in a long time as we've been dealing with this pandemic. But COVID-19 is not going away just yet. So at this moment in time in Oakland County, what's been the conversation between your office, between the board, and of course between the Oakland County Health Division, and its approach to continuing to protect the community and advise the community on what is happening on the COVID-19 front, while also understanding that uncertainty should be playing a factor into plans for the future?
Yeah, it's a great question because, as you put it so well, COVID is not over, but as the numbers indicate, as the transmission rate indicates, we are at a different place now. Our transmission rate now is considered low by CDC standards, which is what we've used from the beginning. They've modified those standards somewhat, but we are at a low transmission rate. And so that allows us to do more free things. We don't have the mask requirement in schools right now or in indoor settings. So the transmission rates have guided this. We've tried to follow the science as best we could from the beginning of this. As you indicate, there could be spikes. Our health department is always monitoring this on a daily basis. And we're also talking to our health system, our hospitals, to see what's happening there. So the good news is, we are at a different place, and that's what made me feel comfortable giving sort of a more of a forward-looking 5-year outlook versus just talking about how we're going to get through, the pandemic and the terrible things, that has wreaked on us. So I do think we're in a very different place, but well said. We may have to reinstitute measures at some point, depending on what the virus forces us to do.
And you mentioned refocusing goals for the county going forward in that 5-year plan, some of those benchmarks, some of the ways that you and by you I mean the county is aiming to accomplish those goals. Something else to refocus on after COVID-19, or as we begin to find our way maybe out of the COVID-19 pandemic, is the role of public health in our communities. Because in the past, it's been, of course, preventing disease, preventing spread of the disease, whether it's West Nile virus outbreaks, or if it's the seasonal flu or common cold or some other disease that may be coming through the community. That's kind of been that role. But we've seen over the course of the pandemic, not just COVID-19, but other conditions that have previously been kind of pushed to the side, such as mental health, being something that's considered much more critical to the public health now in the context of what we've been through with COVID-19. How does that help to inform both your office and the Oakland County Health Division in refocusing its goals going forward?
You bring up a great point. Mental health was a problem before COVID. Not enough people had access, but it's a crisis now. And I've often said that if there's a silver lining to COVID, maybe there's a couple, but one of them is that the stigma around mental health has gone down. It used to be that people were reluctant to get help because they didn't want to be identified as somebody that needed help. But frankly, what we've seen in COVID, anybody can have a mental health issue just like you get a physical health issue. You can be rich or poor, black or white, live in the city or the suburb. It hits everybody. And so one of the things I talked about during the speech is that we're investing $13 million of our American Rescue Plan dollars on mental health services. So that's going to cover our nonprofits in the county, so that if you're a resident and you need access to mental health services, I encourage you to reach out, and we're going to be able to meet another 66,000 people's needs in Oakland County. But we're also going to invest in our students in school, and we're going to invest in our hospitals so that the people that have a mental health crisis and show up in the ER can get help when they get there. So we're leaning in and trying to address the need. But I want to encourage all your listeners, anyone can get it. And if you feel like you have any kind of issues, it's just like a physical health issue. Get it taken care of.
We're joined by Oakland County Executive David Coulter on the Oakland County Megacast. More information on their website, oakgov.com, for more information on county programs and plans going forward, and of course to review and watch for yourself the State of the County address that Executive Coulter made earlier on the week of this recording, on this live broadcast. Again, we're joined by Oakland County Executive David Coulter on the Oakland County Megacast. Another driving force in the future plans of Oakland County is, of course, on the business end of things. We've seen our commercial businesses, our retail businesses really across the board have also taken a large hit during the COVID-19 pandemic. But we're also seeing there is this sort of drive for industry here in Oakland County and in southeastern Michigan, really across the state, from a variety of different industries, including the automotive industry, really investing in electric vehicle production here in Michigan and here in Oakland County. How much of a role does that play? Does that investment by many different companies, including General Motors here locally, play into Oakland County's plans going into the future?
Yeah, I started my speech by driving into the auditorium in a Chevy Bolt that's made at the Orient Assembly Plant, the GM plant, to highlight the fact that, GM made a $4 billion investment there, the largest investment they've ever made in the history of their company, and the largest private investment ever made in Oakland County. So it was a huge thing, and I think it reaffirms that Michigan is a competitive place in the EV market and that we can compete and win in this space. But what I also talked about in my speech is this: those kinds of big wins are wonderful and we celebrate them when we get them. But most businesses in Oakland County are small businesses, 50 people or less. And that's where we really have to make sure that we're leaning in and giving the resources that they need. Over the last couple of years, we've given 15,000 of them support through the county, through grants and toolkits and the like. But going forward, we're going to really lean in on those small businesses. We created a new team, and I announced this at the speech, called Business Forward. And these are 9 business consultants who are not going to work in the office, but are going to work directly in the communities with small businesses, helping make sure that they have the resources, the support, the grant writing, whatever it is that they need to be successful, they can help our small businesses, because that's really the backbone of our economy here in Oakland County.
Especially as we add more industry to Oakland County, another thought that comes up, another topic that comes to mind is sustainability. That's been a significant buzzword in politics, in industry, in government for a number of years as we attempt to maintain a certain quality of life in our society, but also balance that with the need to protect the environment so that we are able to live that quality of life for a significant amount of time. Later this hour, we'll be joined by Dr. Majgan Raji from Oakland University, who's part of the leadership team from their university sustainability plan. Can you talk about the partnership between the county and Oakland University on sustainability in Oakland County and making plans to accelerate into the future, but do so in a way that is thoughtful, that is considerate, and that is prudent to maintaining our environment?
Yeah, I'm so glad he's going to be your guest. He's smarter about this than I am. The great folks at Oakland University are really leaning into this space and really have become recognized leaders in this space of sustainability at the higher ed level. And we're, I think, really blessed to have Oakland University in this county. And so I announced at my speech a brand new partnership with Oakland University, where they're going to help us do the data and the research and the strategic planning around environmental sustainability. And I can't thank them enough for their help, because, as you said, this is a critical, a moral issue, frankly. If we can do all the other things right, and if we don't figure out how to protect the health of this planet so that we survive as a species, it's all going to be for naught. So I think we have a responsibility to ourselves and our future generations to make sure that we're working in this space as well as we can.
We're joined by Oakland County Executive David Coulter on the Oakland County Megacast. More information from Oakland County, including everything you need to know about the State of the County address that occurred earlier earlier on in this week, that we are both broadcasting live and recording this particular interview on their website, oakgov.com, for more information. oakgov.com to learn more. And so we have a significant Ukrainian population here in southeastern Michigan, really across the state of Michigan, and here in Oakland County especially. Obviously, our thoughts are with those in Ukraine and those of Ukrainian descent with Ukrainian friends and family who are affected by the barbaric Russian invasion of Ukraine. Knowing that we have such a significant Ukrainian American population and so many that have family and friends or others in their life that are over in Ukraine, what sort of support, either to resources or assisting in directing to resources, is maybe provided through Oakland County to residents who may want to help those in Ukraine as they're dealing with this crisis?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. It's so devastating what's happening there. The Russian invasion is just unbelievably unacceptable. And I think a lot of us thought we would not see something like that in our lifetime. And as you mentioned, we have a significant Ukrainian American population in this county and in this region. And it was important for me as a leader to stand up and support the democracy that they're fighting so hard to protect. I went to a Ukrainian prayer vigil in Southfield, where there's a Ukrainian church there. It was beautiful. I went there with my friend Andrei Duzhi, who's a leader in the Ukrainian community that I've known for many, many years. I was really proud of the fact that we lit up our county building in the blue and gold of the Ukrainian flag to show support for those folks. And as you said, we're also working to get resources as we can and to help coordinate that for our residents to donate. I would also encourage you, because there's been some bad actors in this field, that if you go to the attorney, and I've talked to the Attorney General about this because she's very concerned, as always, unfortunately, there's bad characters that try to make money off of these sort of tragedies, which is disgusting to me. But if you go to her website, at the Attorney General's website, she's also tracking who not to give money to, who to give and to not give money to. So I encourage your folks to do them. And then just otherwise, if you're a praying person, to hold the folks in Ukraine in your prayers and thoughts, because they need all of our strength right now.
Yeah, we had a couple of interviews recently too with more information on how you can determine legitimate actors in relief for Ukraine. We had Sam Rosenberg on yesterday, who's a co-founder of Share Detroit, and they just created a new effort, Share Ukraine, at shareukraine.org. And we had Melanie Ducanel from the Michigan Better Business Bureau on with us recently, also talking about those charity scams really early on in the crisis over in Ukraine. So all those good resources, those are on civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you can view both of those interviews. And of course, the Attorney General's office, always helpful and their information on avoiding scams. We're joined by Oakland County Executive David Coulter on the Oakland County Megacast last week related to the Attorney General's office. You were at part of a press conference with the Attorney General, with Dana Nessel, as well as Oakland County Sheriff Michael Bouchard, talking about a $26 billion opioid settlement with the nation's three major pharmaceutical distributors, Cardinal, McKesson, and AmerisourceBergen, as well as Johnson & Johnson. Can you talk about the settlement, how it affects Oakland County, and more particularly, how it affects providing the services and providing the aid that's needed to those that have been affected by the opioid crisis right here in Oakland County?
Yeah, and it is a crisis. There's no question. I think we've all seen that overdoses and deaths are up, in particular because of fentanyl, which is just so much more deadly, and that these opioids have been overprescribed and oversold by these pharmaceuticals. They were wrong, and they got caught for it, and they should have got caught for it, and they have been penalized significantly. And Oakland County is one of the counties that's joined the lawsuit early on, back in 2016, I believe, before I was executive, but I supported it. We did the same when I was mayor of Ferndale, because it's important that we hold these companies responsible for the devastating effects. And we've all seen them. We've seen it in our family. We've seen the addiction that's happened. And so we're going to get a sizable portion of that money, but we're going to get it over 10 years. So it's going to be about $1.5 million a year for the next 10 years. And as promised in the settlement, we'll use every dime of that money to go into drug-related programs, whether it's prevention programs, treatment programs. I'm working with my health director right now to figure out exactly the best way to spend that money. We haven't got it yet, but every nickel of that will go into helping give families and individuals relief from this awful epidemic that we're faced with.
Executive Coulter, just another couple minutes with you before we'll say goodbye today. Anything else at this time that would be important for Oakland County residents to keep in mind in terms of county programs or things that are on the docket that people should be looking forward to and keeping themselves informed on here in Oakland County?
Well, you did a great job of hitting on the main theme, so I really appreciate it. Maybe the last thing I'll throw in is, and I shared this in the State of the County, we've all seen how important our parks are. Sometimes we forget about them or forget the importance of them, but I think in COVID we all found out how important it was to get outside, get some fresh air, connect with nature, reconnect with ourselves. And one of the things I talked about last night is, one of the assets in Oakland County is that we have 138 miles of trails, which are amazing, but my goal, and I stated it at the speech, is to get us to 400 miles. I think I'd love to see a web of trails throughout our communities, throughout our counties, and in the region, so that we can bike ride and ride, walk and whatever else we want to do to get out into nature. So our green spaces continue to be an important asset in Oakland County.
Executive, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Great to see you as always.
Parents do a lot of worrying. Get your kids caught up on childhood vaccines to protect them from these 14 preventable diseases, and you'll have 14 fewer things to worry about. Vaccines are safe and effective and save lives. So let's get caught up on vaccines and worry about something else. Get the facts at ivaccinate.org.
Now is Brian Peterson from Bees in the D, back with us once again on the Oakland County Megacast. Brian, thank you for being with us.
Oh, it's always fun to be with you, Tyler, and we thought we'd try something different and actually come out to our hives today.
Yeah, it's really interesting. You're out at your hives, and you're about to actually break ground on an entirely new pollinator center in Detroit. Can you tell us exactly what a pollinator center is? Is that just a set of hives? Is it something different?
No, it's actually the Michigan Pollinator Center, and it is going to be an actual education tutoring type center where there will be indoor space, but it is mainly focused on the outdoor space because we will have hives there. We'll have native bee hives. We'll have many different gardens with a lot of native plants to help with all of our different pollinators. So yes, we're set to break ground next month.
So why was this particular pollinator center in Detroit necessary? What ultimately was the rationale behind establishing this pollinator center? And then on top of that, why right in the city of Detroit?
So a couple things. Bees in the D, which you know is a nonprofit, we've been now in existence. We're coming up to our 6th year. And it was our 10-year goal to form some kind of an education center, because a lot of the misconceptions about bees and wasps and things like that was part of our mission to educate people. And so we made it a 10-year goal to come up with a center where people can come, schools can come, families can come to learn more about our pollinators, their importance, and a lot of their misconceptions. And here we are in year 6, accomplishing our 10-year goal, thanks to so many wonderful supporters. And Detroit is the perfect place, because they're realizing more and more that even in our urban environments, we can coexist with nature. And we're seeing that in Detroit, as Detroit's becoming a real urban garden, urban beekeeper mecca. I mean, it really is putting a place on the map for Detroit in the natural world.
And so where will the actual pollinators be located at the Pollinator Center?
So the Pollinator Center is actually going to be located in Core City in Detroit, which is awesome because it's central to the city. It's not far from downtown, but yet it's out a little ways where there can be a little bit more greenery. And the pollinators themselves, the beehives, are actually going to be up on the roof. We're going to actually have a green roof center to help also educate about how we can create green roofs, which is not only better for nature, but it's also better for the building because it helps with conservation of energy and water absorption. And so that's where those pollinators are going to be located at the center.
And so you mentioned conservation of energy with the green roof and with the location of the pollinator itself at that location at the Pollinator Center in Detroit, in central Detroit, especially for major cities like Detroit. Pollution is almost inevitable in those cities, and it tends to be much more significant in major urban areas than it is in suburban areas, certainly than it is in rural areas, although pollution affects everywhere at any time in our society. So why does it then become so much more critical to encourage those green spaces in the city itself, especially on top of buildings, which does have a certain effect on reducing or mitigating at least the pollution in major cities?
Right. So obviously, when you talk pollution, you're talking a very wide range. I mean, we could talk about air, we could talk about water, we could be talking about any kind of pollution. But that's one thing that we want to help bring notice to. And we want to help businesses, individuals, help homeowners find ways that they can coexist with nature to help in that area, to help with recycling, to help reduce our imprint that we put onto our earth. And so I think it's very important that we model this in even a place like a city, a large city.
We're joined by Brian Peterson, the founder of Bees in the D, joining us on the Oakland County Megacast from out there at their actual Pollinator Center in Detroit.
And we're not, Tyler. No, just to let you know, I am not at our Pollinator Center. Okay. We're actually up north. I'm at Blake's, actually, where we do have some hives as well. I just wanted to get up here. I'm on my spring break. I think you know, Tyler, I'm a teacher, so I'm taking advantage of every minute I can get. And Mother Nature's not cooperating the best as I'm chipping away ice. And so I was hoping we could see some bees, but unfortunately, they're in their winter cluster. But there is hope, Tyler. The sun is coming out. I see pussy willows growing behind me. So hopefully spring is right around the corner.
So more information is on the website, beesinthed.com, if you'd like to get involved, learn more about the Pollinator Center, or learn more about the science behind their operations in the city of Detroit and all throughout the state of Michigan. Beesinthed.com is their website. We're joined by the founder, Brian Peterson, from Bees in the D. And so when you think about the benefits of bees, we've heard so much over the last several years from across the board, from ecological advocates, certainly from the organization, as we've spoken to you numerous times on the Megacast. But it's interesting because when you think about a major city like Detroit, when you think about a major metropolitan area like the Detroit metro area, you're not really often thinking about vast natural areas, especially in the urban center of Detroit. And so when you put bees in that environment, you're thinking about, okay, we're going to be helping the natural areas in the city. it kind of raises a little bit of a question mark because it's the city of Detroit. It's a major city. There's not exactly a whole lot of nature there. So how do these hives, how do these pollinator centers then ultimately do end up helping the environment in the city itself, even though it is a major urban area?
Wow, Tyler, there's so many things that you just unpacked there that I'm so glad you asked, because exactly what you said is what people assume. And that's why it was fun for me to be up at Blake's, where it is a much more rural environment, where our bees do really well, is because obviously there's apple trees and you would think a lot more resources. But that's the fun of Bees in the D. We are in rural areas, suburban areas, and of course in downtown urban areas. And actually studies have now shown that bees, especially honeybees, and even our native pollinators, like many of the bumblebees, are doing better in urban environments. And a lot of people think, what? There's no space. But people don't realize there's a lot more green in urban areas, and actually there's more diversity. And you have to really kind of unpack that a little bit, because the more you think about it, you're like, no, there's more diversity in the rural areas. Well, we've kind of created mono societies where there's acres and acres, miles and miles of corn or soybeans, which doesn't help with diversity. So actually, the urban areas are helping our pollinators to flourish. And here's the other part that's very important, and another reason we started Bees in the D, food security. There are so many urban gardens now that are popping up in the city, especially with vacant lots next door to homes. And our pollinators then can go in and pollinate, which then increases the produce or the production of those gardens, which then gives people healthy organic food to eat.
So we're going to talk about the bee population in the state of Michigan, because we know in the past that there's been a lot of worries, not just in Michigan, across the U.S. and really around the world, about diminishing bee populations. In the state of Michigan, what is the state of our bee population, and how does returning that to normal levels or to optimal levels in the state of Michigan ultimately provide a great benefit to Michigan, both environmentally and ecologically, but also to our economy?
Well, the good news is, Tyler, is very few, really only one that could be in our area, the rusty patch bumblebee, are actually even listed on the endangered species list. But the bad news is, yes, our bees, native, our honeybees, the population is declining. Actually, the honeybees has been pretty consistent because of hobbyist beekeepers, and honeybees are a little bit different because they're more managed, like livestock. But the numbers of our native bees have been declining. And so by bringing attention to the importance of being, to put aside pesticides, to plant more natives in more pollinator-friendly plants, it helps all of our bees, all of our pollinators, our butterflies, everything. So hopefully we can help that trend from continuing to slide down by doing our part and helping out at home by planting some plants, using less pesticides.
We're joined by Bees in the D founder Brian Peterson on the Oakland County Megacast. More information on the website, beesinthed.com. That's beesinthed.com. And so, as we mentioned, for those that are just tuning in, Bees in the D is about to break ground on a new pollinator in the city of Detroit, in the center of the city of Detroit. How has that pollinator been funded? Where did those funds come from to ultimately help Bees in the D establish this pollinator right in Detroit?
So Bees in the D is very fortunate that people can sense our passion and they understand the importance of this education that needs to happen and this conservation that needs to happen. So we are very fortunate to have donors that are helping to make this happen. And of course, we do a lot of fundraisers and a lot of events that also help bring in some funds to help with this project.
We're joined by Brian Peterson from Bees in the D on the Oakland County Megacast. On your website, you have a listing for a Bees in the D intern. You're looking for some additional help with your organization, especially as you expand to other different ventures, such as this new pollinator, and expand all throughout the state of Michigan. What kind of applicants are you looking for, and what would be some of the duties that they would undertake as interns at Bees in the D?
Well, right now, the intern that we're looking for is more on the back end of things with the social media, with statistics, things like that, that we are really trying to ramp up a little bit because, I mean, that is where a lot of people go to learn more. And so that is an area that on the other side with the other Brian, because I think, there's two Brians, he's kind of spearheading that. I kind of spearhead the bees in a lot of the education, being a teacher. But we're very excited that we continue to grow and bring in more people. We have so many amazing volunteers. We're looking forward to the warmer weather so that we can get our volunteers involved as well. And we have a lot of really fun events coming up, Tyler, so be watching for that as well.
Yeah, you do have a lot of really fun events coming up. Those are listed on their website, beesinthed.com. We're joined by Brian Peterson, founder of Bees in the D, on the Oakland County Megacast. A couple months away, one of those events is the Beehive visit at the Cranes Building in Detroit on June 4th. What will that event entail, and how can people join in if they'd like to?
So that event's really special to us because that is actually a Girl Scout event. We, together with Southeast Michigan Girl Scouts, have brought back the Girl Scout beekeeping patch. And so this is a opportunity, especially for Girl Scouts, to earn that patch by first going to an educational session with me or any other bee organization. Then they actually do a live hive tour where they would go inside of the hives. We suit them up. We have the suits for them. They get to experience that. And then the third part of that is they then do a project that helps further the mission of the importance of our pollinators, and they can earn that patch. But we also have some hive tours coming up at some of our hives at West Bloomfield. We'll be adding them here at Lakes for the Lavender Festival. We're going to be doing some honey sampling, and we're very excited that this summer we have an intern coming in from Argentina. And they're a bee company from Argentina that we're going to do a little swap of businesses. And during that month of June that we do that, we are going to be doing a honey sampling, honeys from the world, where you'll get to sample different honeys from all around the world. Because I think we've talked in the past, Tyler, that every hive, every location, the honey tastes different, because the bees are going to different sources. So the honey from here at Lakes may have more of a fruity, obviously, flavor, unlike some of the hives in Detroit that have more of a wildflower flavor. So that will be a lot of fun.
We're joined by Brian Peterson, founder of Bees in the D, joining us on the Oakland County Megacast. You also have other bee events that can pop up through the year, or other organizations or schools or individuals that would like to hold a bee event and learn more with Bees in the D. For those that would like a bee event at their place of work, their school, their organization, what can they do in order to make that happen in partnership with Bees in the D?
Yeah, thank you for asking that, Tyler. Actually, a lot of events coming up with libraries, too. At the Royal Oak Library, we're doing a 3-part series on that. All they have to do is email us at bees@beesinthed.com and just let us know. And we actually have some new partners coming up, too, a few schools that we're excited about that are going to be hosting hives as well. And so it is fun for us to continue to spread that map of hives to build that Detroit Bee Highway that we talk about, that helps to create these pollinators to help keep our ecosystem and our food industry strong.
So if people want to check out the new pollinator that's about to break ground in Detroit, what's the timeline on that? When can people expect for that to be open and ready and in operation in Detroit?
Well, we're being optimistic. We are breaking ground next month, and it's probably going to be a year-long project of getting it built, because it's not a huge center. And then, of course, the gardens are going to be ever evolving. So we're hoping to be able to host some events in 2023.
We're joined by Brian Peterson, founder of Bees in the D on the Oakland County Megacast. More information on their website, beesinthed.com. Brian, another minute or two before we'll have to say goodbye today. Anything else at this moment that would be important for our audience to know about the pollinator, about Bees in the D, or other interesting things happening with your organization that we haven't discussed yet today?
I think we covered a lot of it, Tyler. I always appreciate that about you bringing up a lot of the different topics we have. I do want to encourage people to keep in mind that we can be a part with helping our pollinators. I'm giving some people permission to not clean up your garden too efficiently too soon, because a lot of our native bees are in that brush, possibly hibernating, or need some of that hollow tubing or sticks to lay their eggs. And so just keep that in mind when you are cleaning up your gardens. And maybe each of us can we can plant one extra plant, one flowering plant that will help our pollinators even more, and of course have a water source out that helps our bees, especially throughout the summertime.
Brian, thank you so much for joining us.
It's always a pleasure, Tyler. I look forward to next time, and maybe next time we'll get to get in the hives. It won't be so cold.
We may come from different organizations,
but we work together to protect the Huron River for everyone.
Most of the pollution that goes into our rivers is carried by rainwater that flows off of roads, parking lots, and rooftops.
The leaves and bark of a single tree can retain a surprising amount of rainwater. Depending on its size and species, it could be 100 gallons or more.
It is estimated that an urban forest can reduce annual runoff by up to 7%.
Here's one thing that we know can help keep our water clean.
Plant a tree.
Plant a tree.
Plant a tree.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
One of the things you can look for in your friends is a change in behavior. These can be big changes, they can be small changes in mood, physical appearance. They may be sleeping less or sleeping more, drinking more, or their eating patterns may be different.
One big change that can be pretty obvious is change in motivation. Do they no longer want to play basketball? Do they no longer want to play video games?
Now that we're spending more time online and in virtual settings, it's really important to pay attention to the language that your friend is using and the words they're using to communicate.
So when we text our friends, are they taking longer amounts of time to respond? Are they not responding at all? You don't have to be an expert to try to recognize these signs. The second that you feel it in your gut and that you're concerned, that's the second to have the conversation and open the door to what might be going on.
Today, it is easier than ever to join Michigan's Organ Donor Registry and help build a bridge of hope for organ, tissue, and eye donation. Just one person can potentially save or help improve the lives of up to 75 people. By joining, your legacy could be the gift of life. Sign up today at michigan.gov/SOS or at any of the more than 145 Secretary of State self-service stations located across Michigan. Be part of Michigan's Bridge of Hope by adding your name to the Organ Donor Registry.
When times get dark, we can't see the help that's all around us. When you don't know where to turn, let 211 be your guiding light.
How can I help you?
Our guides are ready to connect you with the help you need. For help with food, healthcare, mental health, and other resources. Call 211 or visit 211.org. 211. Get connected, get help.
Joining in the program now once again is Dr. Jamie Tawil, internal medicine specialist at Grand River Medical Associates. Dr. Tawil, good to see you again.
How are you doing today?
Doing all right. How are you, doctor?
I'm getting there. It's been a long year. So
yes.
I think we're finally slowing down a bit.
Yeah, it's been a long year. It's been a long couple of days these last couple of hours. So we're chugging along, however. So parts of Europe are struggling with a new variant with COVID-19, the BA2 variant of COVID. There's been some reported cases in Michigan. What do you know so far about this variant? And is there any information about it that people should be keeping a close eye on? Any differences or similarities to Omicron or to Delta or the variants before that?
So the BA2 variant, from what I understand, is a newer variant that's basically a step up from the Omicron variant. It's got a couple of things. You know, every time you have a new variant, you want to ask yourself a few questions. Is it going to be as dangerous as the previous variant? Is it going to be more transmissible? Is it going to be, are we going to be protected if we've had our vaccines? And the answer to those are still kind of in the mix. We're still kind of learning a lot about this variant, but so far what we know is that, yes, it is easily transmissible, however, not as dangerous. In other words, people that do experience the BA2 variant are going to have a little bit more of a milder disease. It's going to be a lot like Omicron, where people were having just, mild symptoms. Even people that were vaccinated, we're also finding that people that have been vaccinated have been really well covered in terms of having a much more milder disease. So we're not having these flurry of hospitalizations that we were having. However, it is more transmissible. So while it is more transmissible, that means there's a larger population that's being exposed, a larger population that's getting sick. So there's still going to be a little bit of a spike in hospitalization, just nowhere near the fraction of people getting hospitalized as we were seeing previously.
We're joined by Dr. Jamie Tawil, the internal medicine specialist over at Grand River Medical Associates, joining us on the Megacast. Dr. Tawil, despite the necessity of primary care providers, there are too few of them, and trends are suggesting there'll be even fewer as current practitioners age, and medical students with loans are going to more lucrative specialties than being a primary care provider. As a primary care physician yourself, can you talk about the shortage, how it affects communities, how it affects primary care providers too, that there does seem to be a reduction of the total number because of these factors that are at play in the medical community?
Yeah, I could talk about this for about 3 weeks. So, yes, there's always going to be a shortage of primary care because primary care is the person you want to see. And it can affect a lot of things. I mean, in Michigan specifically, we're in the Metro Detroit area, so we do have a lot of primary care physicians that are going to basically be available. But in upper northern parts of Michigan, or a little bit more less dense populated areas of Michigan, there's going to be fewer primary care, and that's going to continue to get worse as time goes on. Yes, people that are in med school are always going to chase. There's a fraction of people that want to take the more difficult to get residencies that are going to be, and I don't want to say that like that, but they're going to be residencies that are going to be a little bit more lucrative. So that tends to always be the big, with just the amount of student loans that people come out of med school with, it's no surprise that they're going to go for specialties that are going to just basically pay more. Primary care tends to be a little bit lower on that end. Now, it's not terrible by any means. We're doing fine, but at the same time, why choose a career if you have options to go better? But also lifestyle and things play into effect. It affects a lot of things. It really impacts the ability for patients to get good care. Primary care is just that, primary. We're the first people you see. So if there's a shortage of primary care physicians, what are you going to do? There's going to be a lot more people going to urgent care. And when you go to urgent cares, you're not really getting standard of care. What I mean by that, when I say that, is you're not having a lot of follow-up. I have patients that have been patients of mine for years. I know them extensively. I know a lot of the issues that they deal with. I know how all their issues interact with one another. I'm able to basically treat them a little bit more completely, so to speak. I talk to all of the specialists that they're involved with. I read I'm coordinating care among different physicians and doing a lot of things to that effect. It's kind of difficult to do if you're in urgent care or an emergency room. And that's what people tend to start doing if they don't have primary care available, or worse yet, they don't even see a primary care physician. They're not getting their standard, age-appropriate screening for risk things such as colonoscopy, screening for heart disease, all of that. And that can lead to bigger problems down the road. And, studies have shown that people that go to primary care physicians with routine regularity tend to do better, less money in healthcare. They tend to be less ill in the long run. They're treated more appropriately, and they're catching things that could have otherwise been a bit more dangerous down the road. How it also impacts, I told you I had a lot to say, how it also impacts us as physicians, there's just a lot more people to be seen, which can be very difficult. You now have waiting rooms that are full of patients, wait times get longer, doctors are getting overwhelmed, the volume starts to go up, and it can become very difficult to start to give people very distinct one-on-one care when you have a waiting room full of people that are anxious to be seen. So it's not good all around, and hopefully that can be turned around.
So Dr. Tawil, why did you become a primary care physician? And then beyond that too, what can be done in the medical community among primary care physicians and those in medical schools that are consulting with these future medical professionals to convince people or attract people, is probably a better terminology to use, to being a primary care physician?
That's a big question to answer.
Yes.
So why did I go into primary care? I went into primary care for a multitude of reasons. My sister actually married a physician when I was 11. She's a lot older than I am. she married a primary care physician, and I was always enamored by him and felt that I loved the way he handled business. I loved the way people always kind of flocked to him at, family gatherings and asked him questions. And he's always kind of been a hero of mine. So I definitely like that. But more importantly, I also just like the interaction that I have with patients. I have patients that I've seen for years that are super close to me that I consider family. And that's the aspect of medicine that I like. I like the relationships that I build with patients. Other people aren't so into that, and I understand that. Certainly, they just want to deal with the medical complexity. Surgeons want to deal with issues that are dealing with surgery. Not to say they don't love their patients and don't build amazing relationships. They absolutely do. It's just a little bit more complex, and it's a little bit more to their liking, and they like doing procedures. Our cardiologists are they have amazing relationships with their patients, but they like to narrow it down to one specific issue, which is the heart, and then they go from there. It's tough to try and encourage people to go into primary care specifically because that may not be what people want to do. My vision of a family doctor growing up, when I said I wanted to be a doctor as a kid, I always just envisioned the doctor that I saw, which was my primary care physician, and then my sister married my brother-in-law, and it goes from there. Other people, they're more interested in more complex, and when I say complex, I mean procedure-based type of medicine that's a little bit more, I don't know how to put, just more, rewarding for people that like to do those types of things. If you were trying to encourage people to go into primary care medicine, I think it's going to be tough. There's primary care physicians, we do a lot of the paperwork of medicine. We do a lot of filling out forms, disability stuff. We do a lot of the, family medical leave paperwork. We do a lot of insurance paperwork, handicap plates. It just goes on. So that can be a major turnoff to people that are interested in medicine because they just want to do medicine. I often joke that sometimes I feel like I practice more law than I do medicine. As a primary care physician, sometimes I feel like I'm the therapist. I talk to patients about very personal things, and some people just aren't into that aspect of medicine, and that's okay. But if you want to make things a little bit more better for people to go into medicine, I think to reduce the burden of paperwork that they deal with, as well as give them more incentives. Increases in pay certainly would always be a benefit, as well as potentially offering them better student debt forgiveness, because student debt kind of becomes a big major factor into what they're deciding. It can often be the case. So that's a very small answer that needs to be this big. So
We're joined by Dr. Jamie Tawil, internal medicine specialist at Grand River Medical Associates, joining us on the Michigan Megacast. Dr. Tawil, another minute with you before we'll say goodbye today. At this time, anything else that would be important for Michiganders to be considering in their own personal health and in their relationship with their primary care provider at this time before we let you go today?
Yes, go see them. I joke with my patients. When do I have to come in? And I always say, look, I'd like to at least see you as often as a dentist. What I want to see at least twice a year if you're healthy. If you have other problems, I want to see you more often. COVID is starting to get a little bit less on the forefront. So I would encourage people to definitely try to see their physicians a little bit more, catch up on all the stuff that they've been missing. An ounce of prevention is definitely worth a pound of cure. So I want to make sure that people are getting to see their doctors so that they can catch problems before they become big ones. And we're catching up to that backlog. And the guys that are in primary care love to be primary care docs, and they enjoy their patients tremendously. We do want to see you. So I encourage people to do that, and that's about it.
Dr. Tawil, thank you so much for joining us.
No, thanks for having me as always. I appreciate it.
If you are struggling to afford your internet bills during the pandemic, there's a temporary government program that may be able to help. It's called the Emergency Broadband Benefit, and it provides up to a $50 monthly discount on your broadband bill to qualifying households. Find more information about the program, including if you qualify and how to enroll, at fcc.gov/broadbandbenefit, or call toll-free at 833-511-0311.
A public service announcement from 89.3 Lakes FM. Joining us now is a U.S. Senator representing the state of Michigan, Gary Peters, joining us on the Megacast. He was on hand earlier on this week as Congress was addressed by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky relating to the Russian war in Ukraine. Senator Peters, thank you for being with us today.
Well, pleasure to be with you again.
Appreciate having you on. So for you and for your colleagues in both chambers of Congress at the federal level, what was it like for you yesterday to hear the words from the front lines from President Zelensky of Ukraine as his country deals now for several weeks at this point with an invasion from Russia?
Well, certainly, we are all impressed and inspired by President Zelensky, his courage, his leadership in the face of this onslaught from Mr. Putin and this unprovoked illegal attack on the country. And certainly, we are all just so troubled to see the images of what is happening in Ukraine. The video that the president played was particularly powerful to show the extent of the devastation that the Russian military is doing to the country of Ukraine. And certainly our hearts go out to the Ukrainian people, and it just really strengthened our resolve to make sure that we're doing everything we possibly can to help the Ukrainian people in the form of military assistance to help the Ukrainian military fight against this unprovoked attack by the Russian military and Mr. Putin, as well as provide humanitarian aid for folks both in Ukraine as well as the refugees that are now flowing across the borders to get away from the war.
So, Senator, we've heard the calls from Ukrainians, including from government officials such as President Zelensky, asking for NATO and for Western allies in and outside of NATO to conduct a no-fly zone over Ukraine. And there's where this balancing act comes into play. Because on the one hand, as you said, we in the U.S. want to help our friends over in Ukraine. This is an unprovoked invasion by a world superpower that is taking a harrowing effect on the citizens of Ukraine. But at the same time, you're playing a balancing act there too, because you want to provide as much assistance as possible to this nation that is under attack without further provoking a world superpower and escalating this conflict. Where does that balance come into play in the negotiations internally in the U.S. government from that standpoint, and what can be provided to the Ukrainians without then provoking President Putin, who clearly is not all there and is willing to escalate this to significant levels if he is provoked?
Well, and that's an incredibly important question, and you're right about Mr. Putin. We have to. He's not acting rationally in my mind. Maybe in his mind somehow it's rational, but to do what he's doing simply makes no sense. We have to remember that Russia does possess nuclear weapons, and they have tactical nuclear weapons that they believe that they can use in Europe. So it is a dangerous situation. Folks, certainly President Zelensky is asking for a no-fly zone, and if I were him, I'd be asking for everything that I could to help my country. But we do have to weigh the potential impact of escalation involving NATO troops on the ground in a war that could spin into very dangerous proportions. I think it's important for folks to realize that if we put a no-fly zone, that brings us into combat. And we're relying on our advice from our military leaders. But in order to put together a no-fly zone, the first thing you have to do is go in and take out anti-aircraft systems that the Russians have in place that would put those aircraft in jeopardy. And when you attack those systems, you will be killing Russian soldiers that are manning those sites. Those sites will fire back on our aircraft, and according to our military experts, we will lose American pilots in that operation. And then once that occurs, if there's any incursion from Russian aircraft, you have to shoot them down, and you will be in air combat. And we can do it. We can have a no-fly zone, but folks have to realize that there will be casualties, both Russian and American casualties in actual combat, and that is clearly a significant escalation.
We've heard some rumors, too, Senator Peters, that the Russian government may be considering the use of biological weapons, and that they have been beginning propaganda efforts to state that Ukraine may or may not be producing biological weapons as an excuse. And we've seen President Putin do this, where he kind of casts blame on an adversary, so to speak, and then commits that exact act. That being said, biological weapons, obviously egregious. It's something that the United States has in the past in other conflicts worldwide said that is a sort of red line where there will be some intervention, at least in the form of sanctions in that regard. But in this conflict, I think there's quite a lot of curiosity from the American public and from the worldwide community as well. Are there any red lines in this conflict that Russia could cross that would then spark or require, is probably a better word to use, require further effort from the U.S. and from NATO allies in order to protect the security of the entire world?
Well, certainly we have responsibilities with NATO, and if any NATO territory is breached by the Russian military, our treaty obligations as part of NATO would require a response of the entire alliance against Russia. So I think Mr. Putin knows that. Hopefully that is a major deterrent for him to do that. But certainly that is a line to be crossed. And we had a recent attack near the Polish border that killed a number of Ukrainian service members and civilians, but it was very close. But if you have an attack on territory of a country that's part of NATO, that would be clearly a red line.
We're joined by U.S. Senator Gary Peters on the Michigan Megacast. Senator, I know that we're short on time, so before I let you go, I do want to ask you, you and a fellow Michigan Senator, Debbie Stabenow, recently introduced the Help Education After Loss, or HEAL Act, to address mental health in our schools, inspired by the wake of the tragic shooting at Oxford High School in November of 2021. Can you tell us a little bit about this act and the ways that it may help students in Michigan and all throughout the U.S.?
Well, this legislation is to provide mental health services to students and staff who are in a school that has been impacted by a mass shooting or some other type of traumatic event, and provide mental health services immediately to those individuals in that school. So it'll provide counselors, psychologists, social workers, others that can be there to help folks immediately in the aftermath of a tragedy. It has been estimated that roughly a third of folks who witness a mass shooting develop PTSD, the post-traumatic stress disorders, and or other kinds of acute stress disorders. It's critically important to help these individuals with mental health services as quickly as you can after an event. This legislation awards federal grants to local districts and schools. I work closely with the Oakland schools as well as national associations of social workers and other professionals to provide the resources necessary to help these individuals. The legislation will also study the impacts on student mental health. We need to know more about how these violent and traumatic events impact students, and so that we can better prepare should we have another horrific event like we saw in Oxford, and develop best practices. And it depends. If you look around the country, some schools simply don't have any type of mental health services or counseling available for their students. And if they get if they have a violent attack or a mass shooting occur in one of those schools, those students are in a particularly vulnerable position, and we want to make sure we're helping victims and folks who witnessed these attacks as quickly and as effectively as possible.
Senator Peters, thank you very much for joining us.
Great to be with you. Thank you.
If you are struggling to afford your internet bills during the pandemic, there's a temporary government program that may be able to help. It's called the Emergency Broadband Benefit, and it provides up to a $50 monthly discount on your broadband bill to qualifying households. Find more information about the program, including if you qualify and how to enroll, at fcc.gov/broadbandbenefit, or call toll-free at 833-511-0311.
A public service announcement from 89.3 Lakes FM.
Whether you're the city,
the county,
or the Huron River Watershed Council,
we work together to protect water resources for everyone.
Most of the pollution entering our rivers is carried by rainwater that runs off roads, parking lots, and rooftops.
A rain garden helps catch stormwater runoff.
Rain gardens and their plants help dirty runoff soak into the ground.
You can do your part to help keep our water clean.
Learn about rain gardens and native plants.
So consider a rain garden in your home landscaping.
Catch the runoff with a rain garden.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
I couldn't breathe at all. There was lots of talk about putting me on a ventilator. I thought I was gonna die. I was 39 weeks pregnant and had a scheduled C-section. During that time, I got COVID and was hospitalized for a month. I had a blood clot in my lungs. It caused me to go into right-sided heart failure. I was really scared. I kept texting my husband and my mom, telling them how scared I was, and I was worried that he was gonna grow up without a mom. And then I was worried if, when I did get home, that he wouldn't know who I was. You know, being 27 and a mom and a wife and having that all almost taken away from me. It's scary, and if a vaccine can prevent that from happening, why not? Get your vaccine. I don't want this to happen to anybody else.
A message from the staff of Michigan's Crime Victim Compensation Program.
Anyone can be a victim of crime
and suffer lasting trauma, physically, emotionally, and financially.
But you are not alone.
If you're struggling financially due to a crime,
we're here for you.
Find out if you qualify for crime victim compensation.
Call 877-251-7373 or visit michigan.gov/crime-victim.
A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Victim Services.
If you are struggling to afford your internet bills during the pandemic, there's a temporary government program that may be able to help. It's called the Emergency Broadband Benefit, and it provides up to a $50 monthly discount on your broadband bill to qualifying households. Find more information about the program, including if you qualify and how to enroll, at fcc.gov/broadbandbenefit or call toll-free at 833-511-0311.
A public service announcement from 89.3 Lakes FM.
You see certain things get reincarnated in your children. My daughter is very much inspired by my wife's artistic pursuits. So my daughter started making necklaces. She makes what we call affirmation fashion. I tell her every day that your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. And if there's anything better than being beautiful, it's being smart. And if there's anything better than being smart, it's being kind. And reaffirming that every day is our method of making sure her chin never drops. My dad wasn't around. And I remember riding a bike and falling off and cutting myself, and me never just wanted to get back on it. People ask, how your children learn how to ride a bike, and you didn't. I didn't teach them. I just created an environment where they taught themselves, and all I had to do was be there.
Welcome back to the Michigan Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe. To learn more about the program at civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you can also find information about our entire network of stations, including My Michigan TV. Joining us now is on the program is the founder and program overseer at the Lawn Academy, which helps to provide lawn services to our elderly community. Eric Miller joins us now on the Michigan Megacast. Eric, thank you for being with us.
Well, Tyler, how are you doing today?
Doing well. How are you, Eric?
Pretty good.
Great. Good to hear. Tell us a bit about yourself and your background, and also the background of the Lawn Academy and how this program got started.
Okay, Tyler. Yes. My name is Eric Miller. I'm a Memphian, born, raised in Memphis, Tennessee. I work for the automobile industry, and I had a great opportunity to relocate into 8 different cities. Detroit, Michigan is the 8th city, and it's lovely. It's wonderful. So that's me, a little bit about me. My background from an educational standpoint, my background is in mechanical engineering and in human resource management and human resource leadership. How this got started, we provide leadership training for youth through a college immersion process where the youth also provide free lawn care services for our seniors, veterans, and people with disabilities at no charge. Okay, and how this got started, my mother was a lifelong educator. She was a career educator. Her specialty, though, was educating youth with special needs. And she was great at it. And she dedicated pretty much her life to education. When she passed of cancer, it was something I looked at that and said, you know what? I want to do something in memory of her. I want to do something that would be representative of her legacy, and that is to provide an avenue to further develop youth. And by doing so, the character development piece of it was large. So not only the educational piece of it, but the character development. And that's where we incorporate lawn care services for seniors, veterans, and people with disabilities.
Just how wide-ranging of a community of people is your organization serving, both on the education front for those that are getting these educational opportunities, but also in the lawn care services that you're providing to the elderly community, to the disabled community? Just how far-ranging of a group of people and how many communities is the Lawn Academy ultimately benefiting?
Okay, if you look at a map of Detroit, we're in almost every neighborhood in the city of Detroit. So this summer, as an example, we're going to have over 100 youth between the ages of 11 to 19. We also work with our community education partner, our educational leader, which is Wayne County Community College District, where we put the youth in a college classroom as early as age 11. And the purpose of that is to expose them to higher levels of education and to show them what's the expectation, to think up, to always look up, think upward, think upwardly. Okay, so when it comes to that, and the number of people we serviced over 250 seniors throughout the city of Detroit. This summer, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, we're looking to service 645 seniors, veterans, and people with disabilities. And the reason why we're so widespread across Detroit is because seniors can get in contact to us through United Way 211, just by calling 211, saying that you are a senior, veteran, or a person with disabilities, and that you need help with your lawn. They're going to transfer you to us, the Lawn Academy, and we'll take it from there. And the service we provide, just so you can know, it's not a one-time service. No, when we take care of our seniors, veterans, and people with disabilities, it's for the whole summer. They do not have to worry about their lawns for the entire summer.
And so how did ultimately your organization, you told us some of the background, particularly on the youth services side of this organization. Of course, we're with Eric Miller, the founder and program overseer at the Lawn Academy, but ultimately those lawn care services for the elderly community, for veterans, for people with disabilities, where did that ultimately get settled in as the service angle of this organization? There's so many different ways that you can serve your community, you can serve these populations that you do. Why lawn services?
Growing up in Memphis, Tennessee, that's why it was so critical. I never thought about it until I was looking for a way. I was asking God, how can I provide something that'd be meaningful for the development of youth? At first, with my background being engineering, I thought of something in the STEM area. And then it came across to me so clearly that, okay, if I go the STEM route, you're gonna exclude a lot of youth because they're gonna say, well, I'm not good in math, science, English, things of that nature, so don't go that route. Then it came across to me, Eric, what did you used to do since the age of 6 years old in Memphis, Tennessee? I thought back on it, and I took care of, through gardening and through lawn care services, senior citizens throughout the city of Memphis. So, and then thinking back on that, I said, wow, in doing so, I was exposed to so many great singers, that wisdom. My grandmother, Rosie Henderson, Miss Tappan, Miss Flagg, and it gave me a great sense of community and compassion to others. And also, it allowed me to really know how to manage time management, things of that nature. And I said, wow, that's gonna be the entry point. So we're gonna use the lawn as an avenue to train young men and women, and we're gonna wrap an educational component around the lawn. So Lawn Academy. So the lawn is only the entry point. And then in the way that we enveloped it with all of the academics and other attributes, it's pretty effective. Because one thing I do know, most people have the capacity to go out with a rake, with a shovel, with a lawnmower, with something, and be of service. So that was the way of including all youth. All youth.
Beautifying communities, one lawn at a time. More information from the Lawn Academy on their website, lawnacademy.com. That's lawnacademy.com. We're joined by founder and program overseer Eric Miller with us on the Michigan Megacast. You mentioned earlier the summer college immersion program for youth and kind of how that gives them a look into higher education at a variety of different ages. Can you tell us how kids can get involved, if there are still opportunities for them to get involved in the Lawn Academy and specifically in that program, and also your 2022 free after school program?
Okay, so a couple things. Yeah, so to get involved, first of all, we're almost at capacity, just so you can know.
Okay.
Yeah, we 3 weeks ago, we put out a net to say we needed 100 youth. We filled that in less than a week. Okay, we filled it in less than a week. So what I also wanted to do, I wanted to be inclusive, intentionally inclusive. So what I always want to make sure is that when we say the Lawn Academy is for everyone, the Lawn Academy is for everyone. So we specifically went out and recruited youth with disabilities. So we reached out to some organizations. We reached out on LinkedIn and other places, and we were able to get some great candidates that we also are bringing on this summer that's going to assist us in providing for others. Okay, so that's that piece. The piece that we do need, and I think you know this person, I know this person, we all know this person. First of all, we work with last summer we worked with the Hannon Center, the director there, Vincent Tilford. And he enlightened me on something that was quite interesting, and it's also troubling at the same time, that studies show that seniors live exponentially longer if they're able to stay within their own home. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing is that seniors that do remain at home, a lot of them outlive those that they're familiar with. So loneliness is a true problem. It's a real problem. It's a real problem for our seniors, okay? So what we're doing is that when we call a senior to say, okay, Ms. Johnson, we're gonna be there tomorrow at, let's say, 10 o'clock in the morning, that 15-second or 10-second announcement or scheduling that I just provided normally takes on average 20 minutes to deliver. You know why? Because once that senior gets that call, in a lot of cases, that's the only call they're gonna get that whole day. Yeah. So what we did intentionally, we brought on a person by the name of Miss Matthews. She's one of the seniors. She calls all the other seniors. And guess what? Miss Matthews loves to talk. I said, Miss Matthews, you're the person I need because you love to talk. I need a person that loves to talk to people, that loves to make people feel special, so that 15-second telephone call needs to be 20 to 30 minutes. That's what I need. But we're going to be reaching out to almost 645 seniors this summer. I need working with us this summer, some seniors that love to talk, that can talk about something like this and make it a 30-minute conversation. That's what our seniors need out there. We want to attack this real thing that's called loneliness, and we want to let our seniors know that they're loved.
More information, please continue.
Go ahead. So they can go into lawnacademy.com and just shoot us to contact us there and say, hey, I'm a senior. I would love to make some of those telephone calls for you, Eric, and just sign me up. I'll do it.
Eric, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. More information, as Eric said, on their website, lawnacademy.com, where you can learn more about the organization, how you can get involved. You can call them if you'd like to volunteer over the summer months as they're doing these jobs, calling these over 600 seniors by calling 888-380-5618. That's 888-380-5618, or visiting them at lawnacademy.com, where you can also learn more about their upcoming calls to action in May, where they will be going and planting a flower, and they are calling an action, planting a flower to honor a senior, a veteran, or a disabled person, or someone with special needs, and sending your pictures to admin@lawnacademy.com. And then July 9th, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at 4900 East McNichols in Detroit, they'll be doing a community revitalization project. All those upcoming calls to action, as well as more information about the organization, lawnacademy.com. That is going to do it for today's edition of the Michigan Megacast. All of these interviews from today's program on our website, civiccentertv.com/megacast. We'll be there sometime mid to late afternoon. Big thank you to Eric Miller from the Lawn Academy for being with us, as well as U.S. Senator Gary Peters, Dr. Jamie Twiel, Brian Peterson from Bees in the D, Oakland County Executive David Coulter, and Eric Goldstein for joining us on today's edition of the Megacast. Also, highly encourage you to go to our coronavirus page at civiccentertv.com/coronavirus to stay up to date on everything that you need to know about COVID-19 from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, and the Oakland County Health Division, as well as everything making headlines all across the state of Michigan, as we post articles from journalistic outlets all across the Great Lakes state every morning before our live 10 a.m. to 12 noon shows every single day. civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. Big thank you also to our crew who makes this show possible every single day. Calvin Brown, our technical director, with me in the studios for the 2-hour marathon that is the Megacast, Monday through Friday. Jared Clark out of the office of My Michigan TV, our Zoom producer, and the king of television himself, Larry Nyland, who books all of our guests, helps us prepare ourselves as well to have informed conversations with them about a number of different topics. Up next on My Michigan TV, it's Steve Leto Live, followed by Larry and Maddie Live at 1 p.m. We'll return Friday at 10 a.m.